Okay, so hands up. Paying close attention to detail is not my modus operandi for the majority of my life. I forget dates, times, court hearings for the custody of my son Ewan, but the area that I do pay a lot of attention to is movies, and in particular, combing through and finding all of the tiny bits of information and details within each shot. And luckily for me and the rest of you eagle-eyed viewers, it seems that filmmakers themselves love cramming frame after frame with tasty little brain nuggets. So with this in mind, I'm Jules. This is WhatCulture.com, and these are 9 movies with seriously insane details you didn't notice. Number 9. Quentin Tarantino used original broadcasts on the radio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. So Quentin Tarantino went through a whopping 17 hours of original broadcasts in order to settle on the sounds that we hear on the radio in Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. When it comes to the marvelous worlds often brought to life on the big screen by this unmistakable director, Tarantino's use of music usually sits as one of the most memorable and often delicious tools at his disposal. From his inspired Stuck in the Middle with You infusion in Reservoir Dogs to the chilling Bang Bang My Baby Shot Me Down Kill Bill opening, Tarantino frequently delivers the cinematic soundtrack goods. Yet this ability to cement his features into our brains forever on the back of these outstanding musical choices didn't come without hard work. When deciding on the soundtrack that would help flesh out Los Angeles in the late 1960s, Tarantino found himself sifting through 17 hours of real-life LA AM radio station KHJ from that same period in time in order to get the perfect sounds. And he revealed all of this on a Spotify podcast. So Tarantino would ultimately whittle down the tapes into a 3-hour best-of mix to be used in the film at various points, citing a heaven-sent perfume jingle by the name of Suddenly from the recordings as one of the best song cues in the flick. He said, "That's the one in particular that holds up like a song. You listen to it a couple of times, you get the words, then you're singing along to it. Literally, I think it's one of the most effective song uses in the movie." Though we sometimes take Tarantino's ability to perfectly infuse music into his on-screen environments, whether in the background or booming over the top of a particular sequence, for granted, hopefully this little peek behind the curtain will highlight the hard graft that goes into even the smallest moments that we barely even noticed while watching this movie for the very first time. Number 8. Real Arrows, Throne of Blood, 1957. Akira Kurosawa is often considered to be the greatest of all Japanese directors, with a body of work that includes Hidden Fortress, Seven Samurai, Yojimbo, Rashomon, and Ran, which are, to put it bluntly, delicious. Throne of Blood, which is basically Macbeth in feudal Japan, contains not only some outstanding acting but some rather deadly scenes, namely the ending in which Mifune is fleeing from archers. Kurosawa decided, for some reason, that the acting wasn't getting across how pant-shittingly scary this would be, so decided to hire some of the best real-life archers to fire arrows at the actor. So yeah, if Mifune's terror looks real, that's because it is. Number 7. Equipment actually works on the moon. 2001: A Space Odyssey. Stanley Kubrick is the maddest prick this side of, well, ever. He regularly demanded the impossible from his actors and his films, and yet still managed somehow to make it happen. Now, everyone knows that A Space Odyssey was not a simple flick to make, with unique sets and immaculate delivery demanded from all involved. However, it's not well known that all of the props featured, every single one, were actually designed in such a way that they would actually work on the moon. It's never been made clear why this was so, except for Kubrick's fanatical approach to filmmaking, but it's true, and it leads you to wonder whether Kubrick actually thought he was on the moon, or if his next feature would be set on the surface of it. Either way, mad. Number 6. Johnny Depp learned to speak near fluent Vietnamese. Platoon. Platoon is considered to be a rather accurate portrait of what it might have actually been like to fight in the Vietnam War, given that the movie's director, Oliver Stone, actually fought in the Vietnam War. The film stars Charlie Sheen and a large ensemble cast, including Willem Dafoe, Forrest Whitaker, John C. McGinley, and Johnny Depp, who was only in the movie for a couple of minutes. Originally, though, Depp was meant to be in much more of the film. However, and this is legit, Stone thought that he was too pretty and cut a lot of his parts to make sure the audience focused on Charlie Sheen. Now, this sort of stuff happens, but Depp had learned an extensive amount of Vietnamese for the role, and while it would have been much easier for him to just learn the lines that he read, he wanted to come across as authentic as possible for his role of his translator soldier. Number 5. Somebody actually wrote out all of those John Doe diaries. 7. Remember that scene in Seven, or Sir 7N if you want to get Simon Miller about it, where Pitt and Freeman rock up to John Doe's apartment to find all of his diaries? That was a pretty haunting spectacle, right? Not only because it looks ace, but because it also highlights how unhinged the man is, as if the killings hadn't already done enough of that is. Now let me blow your mind. David Fincher commissioned John Sable to create all the props for these scattered notes, and he did this by buying $1,500 worth of old journals, ripped them up, and then pieced them back together with pictures of dead bodies. The text is too small to read, but each of these journals that litter the scene were recycled, and that must have taken so long that it's a wonder that he didn't go mad himself. Number 4. Agent Smith's number plate. The Matrix Reloaded. The Matrix is one of the most enjoyable sci-fi films around. You can't really say the same for its sequels, but the original really is brilliant. Yet that's not to say that Reloaded didn't try to outbig and outbetter the first film with tons of details sprinkled everywhere. One that many will miss is the license plate on Agent Smith's car, IS-5416, which turns out to be a Bible passage, Isaiah 54:16, which reads, "Behold, I have created the smith that bloweth the coals in the fire, and that bringeth forth an instrument for his work." Well, look at that, an angry tool called Smith with a car that talks about a hot smith using his tool. Number 3. Michael Mann insisted that everything was shot in the exact spot that it really happened. Public Enemies. It's all about the details of the details of the details. That's a little quote from Johnny Depp about Michael Mann, who really took that message to heart when making Public Enemies. And by that, I mean that he got his actors to stand in the exact spot in which the events of the film really happened, which is a production nightmare for so many reasons that I couldn't even begin to explain. Mann managed to get the most out of the footage that he wanted, despite the fact that the majority of audience members wouldn't really be able to tell the difference, and it's a shame that all this work will go unnoticed by all but a select few. Number 2. There are 3,473,271 individual hairs on Lotso Hugging Bear in Toy Story 3. Lotso Hugging Bear has 3,473,271 hairs on his pink, fluffy body. I don't even need to explain why that's an incredible feat of time and effort. Fair play, Pixar. And number 1, the pirate ship had 44,000 moving parts. Pirates in an adventure with scientists. Stop motion is the art form for the creator with time on their hands. Every movement, every frame is manipulated and set with care, and it's one of my favorite mediums to view because you get a tangible sense of time when watching films created in this fashion. As an almost testament to this fact, creating Pirates in an Adventure with Scientists took over 500 people 5 years to make. 5 years. Think on that one for a second. 5 years to create one relatively short children's film. That's not all, and this is where it gets seriously impressive. The pirate ship used on the film was built from over 44,000 moving parts. Imagine trying to construct something of that scale, unless you're a real shipbuilder, and then hats off to you. Just remember all of that the next time that you struggle with a piece of furniture bought from IKEA.